There is a law in the spiritual realm, a law older than time, written into the very fabric of creation. It is the divine law of abundance. It is not man's law. It is not the fluctuating opinion of economists or the rise and fall of markets. It is a law as unshakable as the sunrise, as sure as the tides. This law declares that there is no lack in the mind of God, that the universe is overflowing with supply, and that every soul has access to it when aligned with the principles of truth. You were not born to scrape and struggle. You were born to live in the fullness of divine provision. Lack is not part of your spiritual inheritance. It is an illusion, a shadow cast by fear and separation from the source. From the moment God spoke the words, "Let there be," abundance has been woven into the blueprint of existence. Look at the creation around you. The trees do not produce 1 or 2 leaves. They burst forth with thousands. The ocean does not contain a few drops of water. It contains unmeasurable depths. The stars in the night sky are not counted in the hundreds, but in the billions. Every corner of creation shouts of lavish provision, of infinite supply, of a Creator who delights in overflowing generosity. This is the same Creator who breathed life into you. That means your very existence is a living testimony of abundance. You are a child of the limitless, and the wealth of the kingdom is your inheritance. But here is the key. Abundance is not something you chase. It is something you align with. When your mind is tuned to thoughts of fear, worry, and scarcity, you step out of the current of supply, just as surely as a boat stops moving when it's pulled to the shore. But when you think, speak, and act in harmony with divine truth, you step back into the flowing river of provision, and all that you need begins to move toward you. This is why spiritual understanding is far more powerful than any earthly scheme. You can work tirelessly in the outer world, but if your inner belief is locked in scarcity, you will only circle in frustration. The divine law of abundance operates on faith, not fear. It responds to the conviction of your words, the certainty in your heart that supply is yours now. Faith is not hoping for something in the future. It is knowing in the present moment that what you desire is already prepared for you. Just as a seed contains the complete design of the tree before it breaks through the soil, your spoken word, filled with faith, contains the complete manifestation of your financial blessing before you see it with your eyes. When you declare, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," you are not speaking empty poetry, you are enforcing a spiritual contract. You are claiming your right as a child of the infinite to walk in the fullness of supply. This law is not broken by what men call recession or economic downturns. These are appearances, shadows with no true power in the realm of spirit. The same God who provided for his children in the wilderness with manna raining from heaven is the same God who governs your supply today. The divine law is not limited by numbers in a bank account or by the opinion of those around you. In the sight of God, supply is already complete. Your part is to believe it, speak it, and receive it. Many live under the false belief that they must earn abundance through excessive struggle, as though it is something withheld and must be wrestled from the hands of fate. But the truth is, abundance is already yours. It flows from the source in an unbroken stream. Your only work is to clear the channel. You clear it through faith, through praise, through aligning your thoughts with the reality of God's unlimited provision. You clear it by refusing to entertain thoughts of lack, no matter how convincing the outer evidence may seem. Every time you speak words of lack, "I can't afford this," "There's never enough," "Money is hard to come by," you throw stones into the channel, blocking the flow. But when you speak words of faith, God's wealth is circulating in my life. I live in an abundant universe. The Lord is my unfailing source. You open the way for supply to rush in. The law of abundance is impartial. It does not pick and choose favorites. It responds to the vibration of your words and beliefs. If you believe in lack, it will manifest lack. If you believe in supply, it will manifest supply. This is why the scriptures urge us to call those things which be not as though they were. Because in the realm of spirit, they already are. The unseen reality is abundance. The spoken word brings it into the scene. Think of a seed planted in the soil. The farmer knows that beneath the ground, a miracle is already in progress. Even when nothing is visible, he waters, he tends, he protects it from weeds, and he never doubts that it will grow. Your financial blessing works in the same way. The moment you plant the seed through your spoken word of faith, the miracle begins in the unseen. You may not see the results immediately, but the roots are forming, the supply is moving, the channels are opening. The one who doubts will dig up the seed to check on it, killing its growth, but the one who trusts will continue to speak life, to affirm God's supply, until the harvest breaks forth in full view. In the kingdom of spirit, multiplication is natural. You are not meant to have just enough to get by. You are meant to have more than enough so that you can be a blessing to others. This is why the scriptures speak of your cup running over. It is not God's will for you to live with an empty cup, constantly scraping for drops. It is His will that your cup overflows so abundantly that you cannot help but pour into the lives of others. This overflow is the natural expression of the law of abundance in action. When you stand on this law, you become unshaken by appearances. You no longer panic when a bill comes in, for you know that supply is already on its way to meet it. You no longer fear the news headlines, for you know that your provision comes from a higher source than man's economy. You no longer compare yourself to others, for you know that your portion is tailor-made by divine intelligence and cannot be stolen or diminished. You walk with the quiet confidence of one who knows their inheritance is secure. You may have been taught that it is humble to expect little, that it is somehow more spiritual to live in lack. But true humility is not denying the gifts of God. It is receiving them with gratitude and using them for good. The law of abundance is not about greed. It is about recognizing that you are a vessel of divine provision, here to manifest heaven's generosity on earth. When you prosper, you reflect the nature of your source. This law is at work right now. Whether you are conscious of it or not, your thoughts and words are planting seeds in the soil of spirit. Every complaint, every worry, every fearful declaration is a seed of lack. Every word of gratitude, every affirmation of God's supply, every verse spoken in faith is a seed of abundance. The harvest you experience tomorrow is being determined by the seeds you plant today. This is why you must guard your words as carefully as a farmer guards his fields. When you speak a Bible verse of provision, you are not merely reciting. It is as if you are turning the key in a lock, opening the storehouse of heaven. You are invoking the very same creative force that spoke the world into being. You are aligning yourself with the law that governs all prosperity. And the law is unbreakable. It cannot fail because it is upheld by the same God who upholds the stars in their courses. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Before there was light, before there was form, before there was a single star hung in the heavens, there was the Word. The spoken word is the very breath of creation. Every blade of grass, every ocean wave, every mountain peak exists because the Creator spoke. And that same creative force has been placed in your mouth. The words you speak carry power, not symbolic power, not sentimental power, but actual, tangible, spiritual power that shapes the invisible and calls forth the visible. Your life today is the echo of the words you have spoken in days past, and your tomorrow will be the harvest of the words you speak today. The reason the spoken word holds such weight is because it is the vehicle through which faith is released. Thoughts are seeds, but words are the planting of those seeds into the soil of the Spirit. Until they are spoken, they remain locked inside the mind. But when they pass through your lips, they become active. They are set in motion. They are released into the creative law that governs all manifestation. The Bible tells us, life and death are in the power of the tongue. That is not poetic exaggeration. It is literal truth. Your tongue is the rudder of your life. It steers your entire course. If you speak lack, you steer yourself toward lack. If you speak abundance, you steer yourself toward abundance. The spoken word is a decree in the court of heaven. When a king speaks, his words are not suggestions, they are law. You are made in the image of the King of Kings, and your words are meant to carry authority in the realm of spirit. Every time you declare a promise of God, you are issuing a royal decree that must be carried out. Angels move at the sound of it. Circumstances begin to shift. Provision starts to arrange itself. When you say, God is my unfailing source of supply, and I live in divine abundance, you are not merely wishing. You are activating a spiritual law that cannot return void. But here is where many fail. They speak words of faith one moment and words of fear the next. They bless with their lips, then cancel it with murmuring and complaint. The spiritual law does not operate on partial alignment. It responds to consistency. Just as a seed must remain in the soil to grow, your declarations must remain planted. If you dig them up with words of doubt, you cut off their power to produce. The tongue cannot be divided. Blessing and cursing cannot flow from the same spring without poisoning the flow. Your spoken word also carries the vibration of belief. You can repeat a verse mechanically, but if there is no faith behind it, it falls to the ground powerless. Words must be charged with conviction. When Jesus spoke to the fig tree and said, "No man eat fruit of thee hereafter forever," the tree obeyed because he spoke with authority. He did not hope the tree would wither. He knew it was already done. That same authority belongs to you when you speak the promises of God. But you must own the words as truth in your heart before they can produce results in your life. Think of the way God created the world. He did not look at the darkness and say, "Oh, how dark it is." He said, "Let there be light." He spoke the desired outcome, not the current condition. This is the pattern for your own speech. Never give voice to what you do not want to see grow. Do not repeat the language of lack, for lack will multiply under the sound of your agreement. Speak only the language of abundance, health, peace, and provision, for these will multiply in the same way. Your mouth is a sower's hand. Every word is a seed. Plant wisely. When you speak a Bible verse concerning your finances, you are not uttering empty scripture. You are releasing divine law into your situation. If you declare, "The Lord will open to me his good treasure, the heavens, to give the rain to my land in its season, and to bless all the work of my hands," you are aligning your life with that very promise. You are telling the unseen realm, "This is the standard for my life. This is the reality I accept." And by the immutable nature of God's word, it must come to pass. Heaven and earth may pass away, but the word will not. Some may say, "But I have spoken good things and still have not seen the results." Remember this, the word is a seed, and the seed has a time for sprouting, a time for growing, and a time for harvest. A farmer does not plant one day and reap the next. There is a season of cultivation. And in that season you must keep watering with your declarations, pulling up the weeds of doubt, and keeping your eyes fixed on the promise. It is in this season that many lose heart and begin to speak words of complaint, not realizing they are choking their own harvest. The wise continue to speak life even when the field looks bare, for they know that under the soil the miracle is already unfolding. Words not only shape the unseen, they summon provision from unexpected places. The spoken word carries a frequency that calls resources into your path. You may find that after declaring a verse in faith, opportunities appear, people are moved to bless you, doors open that had been locked. These are not coincidences, they are the outward manifestation of the word's creative force. When you speak, you are giving instructions to the universe, and it must obey. There is also a cleansing power in the spoken word. Just as sound waves can shatter glass, your declarations can shatter the strongholds of lack, fear, and generational limitation. When you continually speak God's promises, you are washing your mind of scarcity thinking, replacing old patterns with the vibration of abundance. Over time, your subconscious aligns with your declarations, and your outer life rearranges itself to match the new belief. This is why persistence is vital. The longer you speak the truth, the deeper it roots into your consciousness until it becomes your default state. It is also important to speak the word aloud, not just silently in thought. Sound is creative energy. When you voice the promise, it travels into the atmosphere, setting in motion forces that your eyes cannot see. The walls of Jericho did not fall by silent meditation. They fell by the sound of a shout. There is power released when your words are heard in the natural realm, for they echo into the spiritual realm with multiplied force. The power of the spoken word does not come from the one who speaks it, but from the one who authored it. You are not creating a new law, you are activating an eternal one. This is why the word works for anyone who will use it in faith. The law is impartial. It will produce for you the same way it produced for the prophets, the apostles, and the saints of old. But it requires your agreement, your voice, your authority to bring it into your personal experience. The truth is, you have been speaking your life into existence all along. Every limitation, every breakthrough, every season of increase, every season of decrease has been connected to the words that have passed your lips. When you understand this, you become deliberate. You no longer speak carelessly. You no longer rehearse the story of your lack. Instead, you take the sword of the Spirit in your mouth, and you wield it against every appearance of shortage. You say, I am supplied according to God's riches and glory. Wealth flows to me freely. My supply is endless, inexhaustible, and immediate. And you say it until it becomes the only reality you know. When your spoken word is in harmony with divine truth, you become unstoppable. Obstacles that seemed immovable dissolve. Delays are turned into accelerations. What once looked impossible becomes inevitable. This is not magic. It is not wishful thinking. It is the outworking of the same power that formed the heavens and the earth, now operating through you as you for you. You are not waiting for power. You are carrying it in your mouth, ready to release it with every word you speak. A Bible verse is never just ink on paper. It is never merely a collection of words arranged in a poetic form. It is spirit-breathed. It carries the very essence of the Creator's intent, alive with the same power that called the universe into being. When you speak it in faith, it is not like reciting a line from a book. It is as if you are holding in your mouth the raw substance of creation itself. Every promise in Scripture is already charged with life. It is already complete in the mind of God. But in your hands it becomes like a seed, small in appearance, yet containing within it an entire forest, a vast harvest, an endless multiplication of blessing. Think about a seed in the natural world. To the untrained eye, it looks insignificant. You could hold it in your palm and dismiss it as a small, dry, lifeless thing. But hidden inside is a living blueprint: roots, stems, leaves, fruit, all waiting for the right conditions to burst forth. It carries within it everything it needs to fulfill its destiny. In the same way, a Bible verse may appear simple, short, perhaps even too familiar. But within it is the blueprint for your breakthrough, your provision, your multiplication. The verse itself is the seed, and your heart is the soil in which it must be planted. The moment you speak a verse in faith over your finances, you are planting it into the soil of the unseen. And in that unseen realm, the laws of God begin to work without delay. Just as a seed begins germinating the instant it is buried in the ground, your spoken verse begins working on your behalf the moment it leaves your lips. You may not see the harvest yet, but underground in the invisible roots are forming, supply is moving, and divine arrangements are being made. But here is the truth many miss. A seed cannot produce if it is never planted, and a seed cannot thrive if it is planted without care. You cannot simply speak a verse once without faith and expect a harvest. In the natural, a seed needs nurturing. It needs water, it needs sunlight, it needs protection from weeds. Spiritually, a verse needs the same. Your watering is your repetition, your continual declaration in faith. Your sunlight is the light of belief, the warmth of expectation. And the weeds are doubt, fear, and contradictory words. These must be pulled out by refusing to speak lack, refusing to agree with the appearance of shortage, refusing to let the world's report take root in your mind. Every seed carries a time factor. You do not drop it into the soil and expect a tree the next day. There is a season for planting, a season for growing, and a season for harvest. Between planting and harvesting, there is faith, the steadfast confidence that what you cannot yet see is already on its way. A farmer does not go back each day to dig up the seed and check if it is growing. He trusts the process. The same trust is required when you speak a Bible verse over your finances. You must speak it, believe it, and then keep nurturing it until the manifestation comes. There is also a multiplication principle hidden in the seed. One seed does not produce one seed, it produces many. A single kernel of corn can grow into a stalk that bears several ears, each with hundreds of kernels. A single apple seed can grow into a tree that produces thousands of apples over its lifetime, each apple containing more seeds, more potential. When you plant a verse of provision, you are not just calling in one blessing, you are opening the door to ongoing, multiplied blessings. Your one declaration can set off a chain reaction of divine increase, bringing opportunities, ideas, relationships, and resources you never imagined. Consider the parable of the sower. The seed is the word of God. Some falls on stony ground, some among thorns, some on good soil. The harvest only comes from the good soil that receives the seed, protects it, and allows it to grow without hindrance. Your heart must be that good soil. If you speak a verse, but immediately let fear choke it, the seed cannot flourish. If you speak a verse, but let the cares of the world distract you, the growth is stunted. But when you receive the verse fully, with no resistance, and give it space to grow, it will produce 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. One of the most powerful truths about a seed is that it does not need to understand the mechanics of its own growth. It simply grows because it was designed to. When you plant a verse in faith, you do not need to understand every detail of how the money will come, how the debt will be cleared, how the provision will arrive. That is the work of the divine law. Your work is to plant, believe, and speak. The seed will grow according to its design, and the verse will manifest according to the eternal promise within it. This is why you must choose your verse carefully, with the same intention a farmer uses in selecting his seed. If a farmer wants wheat, he does not plant barley. If he wants apples, he does not plant lemons. Likewise, if you desire financial multiplication, you must plant the word that carries that specific promise. Verses that speak of God's provision, His unfailing supply, His desire to prosper His children, these are the seeds that will bring forth a harvest in your finances. When you plant that verse, see it in your spirit as already fulfilled. Picture the harvest. Feel the gratitude now before you see it. Just as the farmer celebrates the harvest in his heart when he plants, knowing it will surely come, you must rejoice in the promise before it appears. This joy is part of the seed's nourishment. It strengthens your faith and keeps you aligned with the flow of abundance. The chosen verse is also a shield. In times of challenge, it protects your mind from fear and your heart from discouragement. When unexpected bills come, you can stand firm and say, "No, I have planted my seed. My God shall supply all my need according to His riches in glory." When opportunities seem scarce, you can declare, "The Lord will open to me His good treasure." The verse becomes your anchor, holding you steady until the harvest arrives. And when the harvest comes, and it often arrives in ways greater and more creative than you imagined. You may have been expecting a single channel of income to increase, but the law of the seed may open several streams. You may have been believing for enough to meet a specific need, but the law of multiplication may bring more than enough, so you can bless others. Just as a single seed can produce fruit for years to come, your spoken verse can continue producing blessings long after your first declaration. In the spiritual realm, the seed of the word is never dormant when planted in faith. Even if you forget about it, it continues to work. But if you keep it watered with declarations, keep it in the sunlight of gratitude, and protect it from the weeds of doubt, its growth will be faster, stronger, and more abundant. When you take the time to speak the chosen verse daily, you are not simply repeating words. You are strengthening the root system. You are allowing it to dig deeper into your spirit, so that even if storms come, the harvest will not be lost. You are building a living connection between the eternal promise of God and your present reality, a connection that temporary appearances cannot break. Your chosen verse is your seed, your anchor, your blueprint, your promise. Once planted, it cannot help but produce after its kind. And when it is spoken with unwavering faith, it will bring forth a harvest pressed down, shaken together, and running over, in ways that will leave you in awe of the abundance that was waiting for you. All along, fear and doubt are the weeds of the spirit. They creep in unnoticed, take root quickly, and if left unchecked, they will choke the life out of every seed you have planted. You can speak a verse of abundance with your lips, but if your heart is still entertaining fear of lack or doubt about God's promise, the harvest will be delayed or diminished. Just as a farmer must be vigilant to keep his field free from thorns and invasive plants, you must be vigilant over the garden of your mind and spirit. Fear whispers, "What if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if the provision never comes?" Doubt questions, "Is this really true? Is this promise really for me? Can I trust that God will do it?" These are not harmless thoughts, they are spiritual toxins. Fear paralyzes faith, doubt corrodes expectation. And the divine law of abundance responds only to unwavering belief. It is not enough to speak the right words. You must also guard your inner atmosphere so that those words can grow without resistance. Fear and doubt often disguise themselves as being realistic, or just being careful, but there is a vast difference between wisdom and worry. Wisdom comes from faith. It is calm, decisive, and rooted in trust. Worry comes from fear. It is restless, hesitant, and rooted in distrust. One aligns you with the flow of provision, the other blocks it. Every time you give in to fear, you step away from the channel through which your abundance flows. Every time you agree with doubt, you loosen your grip on the promise you've been holding. Releasing fear and doubt is not about pretending they don't exist. It is about replacing them with truth until they no longer have a place in you. Light does not fight with darkness. It simply enters and darkness disappears. In the same way, faith-filled truth displaces fear automatically. When fear says, "There is not enough," truth replies, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." When doubt says, "It's too late," truth responds, "God makes all things beautiful in His time." You do not battle fear by analyzing it. You overcome it by speaking and meditating on the Word until faith rises up stronger than the voice of lack. Fear often gains power from memory, the memory of past failures, missed opportunities, or seasons of lack. The mind replays these experiences and presents them as evidence that the same outcome will happen again. But faith does not draw from the past. It draws from the eternal present of God's promise. The fact that you have experienced lack before does not mean you are destined to live in lack now. The seed you are planting today is fresh. It is not bound to the soil of yesterday's mistakes. When you release the past, you remove the fuel that fear feeds on. Doubt often grows from focusing on the visible instead of the invisible. The bank account balance, the stack of bills, the current lack of opportunities, these become the standard of reality if you let them. But faith refuses to be ruled by appearances. Faith looks beyond the temporary and sees the eternal truth of God's supply. Releasing doubt means training yourself to fix your gaze on the promise, not the problem. It means rehearsing the outcome you desire, not the obstacle you face. One of the most powerful ways to uproot fear and doubt is through consistent praise and gratitude. When you give thanks, even before the manifestation appears, you declare that you trust God's timing and provision. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is already flowing into your life. Praise magnifies the source instead of the shortage. You cannot be in a state of deep gratitude and a state of fear at the same time. One will always displace the other. Another way to release fear and doubt is to recognize that they are not part of your true nature. They are intruders. You were created in the image of the one who lacks nothing and fears nothing. The moment you see fear and doubt as foreign to your spiritual DNA, you will refuse to let them dwell in you. You will treat them as you would treat an intruder in your home. Remove them immediately. Sometimes fear and doubt persist because we are holding on to control. We want to know exactly how and when the provision will arrive. And when we cannot see the details, we become anxious. Releasing fear often means releasing control, allowing God to bring the supply in His perfect way, even if it is beyond your current understanding. Just as a seed does not dictate to the soil how it should grow, you must trust the process without needing to micromanage it. Fear and doubt also lose their grip when you speak with authority over them. You have the right to command them to leave. You can say, "I refuse to fear, I refuse to doubt, my faith is in the unfailing promise of God and His supply is sure." This is not wishful thinking, it is a spiritual decree. The moment you speak it in faith, you set boundaries in your inner life that fear and doubt cannot cross. Sometimes the battle with fear and doubt is intensified by the voices around us. If you constantly hear others speaking of lack, worry, and impossibility, those seeds will try to take root in your mind. Releasing fear and doubt may require limiting your exposure to such voices and surrounding yourself with those who speak faith, abundance, and possibility. The environment you immerse yourself in will either strengthen your faith or feed your fear. It is also important to remember that fear and doubt are not always loud. Sometimes they whisper in subtle ways, hesitation, procrastination, or the quiet belief that you are unworthy of abundance. You must be discerning enough to recognize these subtle forms and deal with them immediately. Worthiness is not earned through your own effort. It is given through your divine inheritance. You are worthy of provision because you are a child of the source that owns it all. Releasing fear and doubt is not a one-time act. It is a continual practice. Every day, you have the opportunity to choose faith over fear, trust over doubt, truth over appearances. Over time, as you consistently make the choice for faith, it becomes your default response. Fear may knock, but it will find no door open. Doubt may try to speak, but it will find no agreement. When you are free from fear and doubt, the seed of the word can grow without hindrance. Your chosen verse becomes deeply rooted in your heart, nourished by unwavering belief. The law of abundance flows without obstruction, and the harvest comes in its fullness. You no longer waver between maybe it will happen and maybe it won't. You stand firm in the certainty that it is already done in the realm of spirit and is simply unfolding into the realm of sight. This is the place of peace, where you rest in the promise without anxiety. It is the place where delays do not shake your faith, because you know delays are not denials. It is the place where appearances do not frighten you, because you know appearances are temporary. It is the place where your words of abundance are not contradicted by hidden fear, and your declarations of supply are not undermined by private doubt. In this place, your spoken verse works at its highest power, for it is planted in the good soil of a fearless, doubt-free heart. Gratitude is the atmosphere in which miracles grow. It is the spiritual climate that accelerates the manifestation of your desires. Just as certain plants flourish only in specific conditions, your financial harvest flourishes in the environment of thankfulness. Gratitude is not merely a polite habit or a temporary emotion. It is a spiritual force. It is the declaration to heaven that you already have what you've asked for, and because you acknowledge it as yours, more must come. Gratitude takes the seed you have planted through your spoken word and your chosen verse and surrounds it with warmth, nourishment, and life until it multiplies beyond measure. When Jesus fed the 5,000, he did not look at the loaves and fishes and lament that there was not enough. He did not complain about the crowd being too large or the resources being too few. He lifted what he had and gave thanks. In that moment of thanksgiving, multiplication began. Gratitude did not just increase what he had. It transformed the very nature of the situation. Lack turned into surplus, and not just enough to meet the need, but enough to overflow, with baskets left over. That is the multiplying power of gratitude. It takes what appears small and makes it abundant. In the realm of spirit, gratitude is recognition. It recognizes that the supply you seek is already prepared, already in motion toward you. It shifts your attention away from what seems missing and fixes your focus on the infinite source that cannot run dry. When you give thanks before the manifestation arrives, you are declaring that you trust the process and that you believe the harvest is inevitable. Gratitude is the language of faith, and faith is the law by which abundance operates. Gratitude also keeps you aligned with the flow of giving and receiving. The heart that is thankful is open. It is receptive. It does not close itself in fear or withhold in worry. A thankful person can give freely, knowing that more will come. This openness is essential for multiplication because it mirrors the very nature of the source. God is a giver, constantly pouring out supply. And when you take on that same nature through gratitude and generosity, you step into His current of abundance. Many people block their own increase because they focus only on what they lack. They rehearse their needs, their debts, their shortages, and in doing so, they are watering seeds of lack instead of seeds of abundance. Gratitude reverses that process. When you make a habit of giving thanks for what you have, you stop energizing lack and start energizing provision. The more you thank God for the resources you already have, the more those resources expand. Even the smallest increase can multiply under the power of sincere gratitude. Gratitude is also a shield against fear and doubt. When your mind is filled with thanksgiving, there is no room for worry to take root. Every what if of fear is silenced by thank you of faith. If you are tempted to wonder how the need will be met, you can simply thank God that it already is. If doubt tries to tell you the promise won't come, you can thank Him that His word never fails. Gratitude turns every negative thought into an opportunity to affirm God's goodness and faithfulness. There is a supernatural acceleration that happens when gratitude is combined with your spoken word. You may have been declaring your chosen verse for weeks or months, faithfully planting and watering the seed. But when you begin to add daily thanksgiving, it is as if the harvest season is drawn closer. Gratitude infuses your faith with joy, and joy is a powerful attractor of blessings. The scriptures say that with joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. Joy and gratitude are inseparable, and together they create an irresistible pull for the good you desire. Gratitude is not limited to the obvious blessings. It is easy to thank God when money arrives unexpectedly or a bill is paid in full. But the deepest multiplication comes when you thank Him for things that do not yet appear, for opportunities you cannot yet see, for supply that is still in the unseen realm. This kind of gratitude is prophetic. It calls the unseen into the seen. It tells the spiritual law, this is already mine, and I am living as though it were here now. That faith-based gratitude is magnetic to abundance. Gratitude also refines your perception. The more you practice it, the more you see the hand of God in your everyday life. You begin to notice small blessings you might have overlooked, the kind word, the unexpected discount, the timely encouragement, the extra time or energy to complete a task. As you acknowledge these, you start to see that abundance is already flowing in countless ways. This awareness strengthens your faith for bigger manifestations because you recognize the source at work in the small ones. The multiplying effect of gratitude can be seen in every area of life, but it is especially evident in finances because money is so closely tied to perception and emotion. If you approach money with fear, it contracts. If you approach it with gratitude, it expands. When you thank God for every bit of money that comes into your life, whether it's a large payment or a small coin, you are blessing it, and what is blessed will grow. You are telling that money, you are welcome here, and you are free to bring your friends. That attitude invites increase. There is also a divine reciprocity built into gratitude. As you continually thank God for His provision, you are honoring Him as your source. That honor opens the door for more to be entrusted to you. Just as a generous giver is more inclined to give to someone who is truly appreciative, the law of abundance responds more freely to the thankful heart. It is not that God withholds from the ungrateful, but gratitude creates the capacity to receive more. Without it, even when more comes, it slips through unnoticed or unappreciated. Gratitude transforms the act of giving. When you give from a place of obligation or fear, the flow is hindered. But when you give with gratitude, thanking God for the ability to give and for the opportunity to be a blessing, you set in motion a cycle of generosity that always returns multiplied. This is the principle of sowing and reaping in its highest form, giving joyfully and receiving abundantly, all under the covering of thankfulness. Even challenges can become seeds for multiplication when met with gratitude. If you can look at a financial challenge and thank God for the solution that is already prepared, you are shifting the entire energy of the situation. Instead of feeding the problem with worry, you are feeding the solution with faith. Often, the act of giving thanks in the midst of lack is the very thing that triggers the release of provision. The practice of gratitude also keeps you from falling into the trap of comparison. When you are focused on what others have that you don't, you create feelings of lack and envy, which constrict the flow of abundance. Gratitude keeps your attention on your own blessings and your own journey. It reminds you that your provision is tailored for you and will arrive in the right form and timing for your life. The beauty of multiplication through gratitude is that it is accessible to everyone at any time, in any circumstance. You don't need to wait for a big breakthrough to start giving thanks. You can begin with the smallest blessings right where you are. And as you do, you will find that the small becomes big, the few become many, and what once looked like lack transforms into overflowing provision. Gratitude turns the little you have into the much you desire, and it keeps the flow of abundance alive, vibrant, and ever-increasing. The journey you have walked through in this message is not merely a collection of ideas. It is a divine blueprint for manifesting abundance and removing every barrier between you and your God-given prosperity. You have seen how your words are not empty sounds, but seeds with creative power, capable of shaping your reality when spoken in alignment with spiritual law. You have learned that faith is not a vague hope, but an active, living force that demands expression through confident declarations, backed by the authority of Scripture. You have discovered that your chosen verse is more than a comforting phrase. It is the sword of the Spirit, cutting away doubt and carving out the path for your blessing to arrive. You now understand that alignment with divine law is not optional. It is essential. The universe operates on fixed spiritual principles, and when you step into harmony with those laws, through belief, confession, and action, you unlock a current of supply that no circumstance can dam. You have also uncovered the multiplying power of gratitude, the atmosphere in which every seed of your spoken word grows, expands, and overflows. Gratitude turns lack into abundance, small beginnings into great increase, and mere potential into living manifestation. Every truth you have absorbed here is a living key, but keys do nothing if they remain in your hand unused. You must turn them. You must step into the role of creator, not by striving or forcing, but by speaking, believing, aligning, and thanking. The moment you decide to live by these principles daily, regardless of appearances, you set in motion a spiritual machinery that cannot be stopped. The supply you seek is not on its way. In the sense of delay, it already exists in the invisible, and your faith-filled word, spoken with authority and saturated with gratitude, will draw it into the visible realm. The promise is certain, the law is unbreakable, the source is unlimited, and the power has already been placed within you. Speak it, believe it, align with it, give thanks for it, and watch as the invisible becomes visible, the little